Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Snyder's Inc. Today, tonight, we got Mr. Ballin. I just finished eating and if you're with me right now, so hopefully I'm doing good. What we're gonna be doing? Mr. Ballin is currently almost 11 at night, where I am right now. So we're gonna try to get this done quickly and out. I had another thing involving a different YouTube channel I work on that I had to pay attention to because I was being rushed into doing it. It doesn't matter though. Not about that. This one is Mr. Bone. This is Top the Unsolvable Mysteries. Unsolvable Mysteries, Part 1. Let's see what this thing's got. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Are you guys ready? Of course you're ready. Let's go.
But no one can make sense of them. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to make the like button a nice hot cup of coffee when they wake up, and then proceed to make them an extremely...
Hey gentlemen, your subscription, Mr. Ball. The man is succeeding. Let's help him keep succeeding. Let's get him to 7 million subscribers. He's close. He's at 6.7. Let's get him to 7 million subscribers. Let's keep this going.
Weak and lukewarm cup of coffee with too much milk and too much Splenda. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. In 1993, David Lewis was an accomplished lawyer living in Amarillo, Texas, with his wife Karen and his 9-year-old daughter. He was known to be a devoted husband and father who spent much of his off time supporting various charitable causes. On January 28th of that year, Karen and their daughter decided to leave Amarillo and go to Dallas to spend the weekend shopping together. David, who would normally go with them, decided to stay home because he did not want to miss the Super Bowl, which was that Sunday, the 31st. So Karen and their daughter left, and then a couple of days later, on the 31st, they returned to Amarillo, and they actually got back to their house right after the Super Bowl had ended. And so they anticipated going into the house and finding David either cleaning up after himself or maybe watching the post-game. But when they walked in, the TV was still on and turned to the channel the Super Bowl had been on, but David was nowhere to be found. Karen noticed that the VCR was actually still recording. David was known to record all major sports games and watch them again, and so clearly he had not turned off the recording. As Karen walked around the house yelling for her husband, she wasn't that concerned. She figured he must have stepped out or something, but she went into the kitchen and she opened up the fridge and she found there was a plate with 2 freshly made turkey sandwiches on it, which was a sandwich David would often make. And she thought that was pretty weird that he would have made them and then let them sit inside the fridge. And so she closed the fridge and turned around, and on the counter in the kitchen was his wedding band and his watch. And so even though there were all these kind of strange things that Karen was finding in the house, she really wasn't that concerned. There was no sign of forced entry. There was no sign the house had been burglarized.
This is someone trying to convince themselves everything's okay when something's clearly off. Because if I came back to my significant other, my husband or wife, wife in my instance, if that happened, I wouldn't want them. If I came back and they were just gone, I wouldn't want. I'm trying to figure out how to word myself. I feel like my brain's crumbling. I wouldn't want to find their wedding band and their watch and that there, and like find out that food they had made has just not been eaten and that, because it would give me this weird vibe of something's wrong. So I'd have the opposite reaction to this woman. She's thinking, oh, it's probably not that big of a deal. To me, finding those things would be a huge deal for me. It'd be something I would have to figure out what's going on. I'd have to try to figure it out.
was no sign of a struggle, and so she assumed her husband must have stepped out to watch the second half of the game at a friend's house and that he would be back later. And so Karen stayed up for a little while, but then ultimately she went to bed thinking he would be there in the morning. But the next morning when she got up, there was no sign of her husband, and so she went to the police. Within 24 hours, the police located David's abandoned car downtown near the...
What is Mr. Bones' hair like? Because I feel like it looks like there's greenness to it. But I don't think that's the case. It's just so weird the way his hair looks in this. I don't know why I'm pausing for that reason. But I just wanted to mention it. Because here, you won't be able to see it because unfortunately the way the videos are. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. Just wanted to mention that. No, I actually had to read the part. The fact she waited that long to go to police is just bizarre to me. The fact there was no contact or anything. Now, I don't remember. I didn't hear when this took place, so it's possible no phones were a thing. Well, you think he would have left a note? Did he know she was gonna be back on that day? If he did, you think he would have left a note in case she came back, and he was there? Hey, I went to this place. I went to somewhere. This is where I'll be. So if he didn't do any of that, I would say I wouldn't have waited that long if that happened to go.
The courthouse. Under one of the car's floor mats, they located his car keys as well as his house keys. And then within the car, they found his checkbook, his credit cards, and his driver's license, all in the places they should be. They looked into his bank activity, and they saw there was a recent deposit for $5,000 into his family's account. They also saw that he recently purchased 2 plane tickets. One was from Los Angeles to Dallas, and the other was from Dallas to Amarillo, but it wasn't clear if he had used either of these tickets. When Karen was told about the found car and the strange bank activity, she told police that her husband had recently told her that he actually thought he might be in danger because he was scheduled to give a deposition in Dallas later that month in a conflict of interest case between his old law firm and a wealthy client. And David was being pressured to cover up some of the wrongdoings of his previous law firm, and he just wasn't willing to do that. He told his family that he was going to tell the truth no matter who it hurt. David understood that put a huge target on his back. While police were certainly intrigued at this new information, they didn't have any evidence to support the idea that someone was actively trying to silence David. It was just a conspiracy. And so for 11 months, they looked for new leads and new information, but nothing came out, and David never popped up. He never called home. There was no sign of him. And so after...
Is it possible? Because we've heard stories like this where someone's paranoia is huge. Is it possible that the paranoia this guy had, because he had to be involved in this court case, is it possible that's what has caused him to run off? Is it possible while he was there watching the Super Bowl that the paranoia got to him such a degree that he just took off? He just took off. He took off the wedding band so no one could track where he was, and no one knew he had. So the people, in case someone found him, and like some bad people found him, he didn't know. They may have not known he had a wife if he did have the wedding band. Took off the watch so they couldn't take it, and maybe keep it for a friend. Maybe it was worth a lot of money. I don't know. And then he took off, hoping he wouldn't be found by the people. Maybe that's what maybe that could be what it is.
After 11 months, the police decided that David must have left of his own accord and that there was no foul play here, and so they closed the case. And after that, David's family unfortunately just had to accept the fact that he was gone and that more than likely no one was ever going to find him again. But in 2004, a state trooper in Washington state was on the internet just researching unsolved mysteries, and he came across a picture of David Lewis. And immediately he recognized that he looked exactly like an unidentified victim of a hit-and-run case he covered back in 1993. And so he pulled up the details of this hit and run, and he found the victim had been struck a day after David Lewis had gone missing. When this John Doe got hit, he was dressed head to toe in military clothing, he had no bags, he had no ID, and he was walking aimlessly down Highway 24 in Washington State, so 1,600 miles away from Amarillo, Texas, where David Lewis had gone missing. But despite the enormous distance between these two events, this trooper was convinced David Lewis was this John Doe. But as he's looking at the picture of David Lewis, he realizes he has glasses, and he didn't think the John Doe was wearing glasses. But just to be sure, he checked the belongings list of the John Doe, and it said he did have glasses. And it was the exact same kind that David was wearing in the picture. And eventually, DNA would confirm that David Lewis was the John Doe. Now, this
How did he get to Washington State within a day? Is that drivable? Is that drivable? Someone let me know. Someone look up the distance, see if that's if you could drive that far. Because that seems hard to drive. Even for going that he didn't drive, because there's no way he could walk that. That's not possible. There was absolutely no way. Could he have drove that far? But then he was walking down the highway. Unless his vehicle, maybe like he drove that far, vehicle broke down, so he just walked on the highway and got hit. Maybe. But anyway, this random officer looking up Unsolved Mysteries was able to finish this case off. That's insane. This was like destiny being reached. This guy solved this case 21 years later. Holy crap.
This solved the mystery of where David Lewis went, but it did not solve the mystery of why he went there. Why did David go to Washington, a place where he has no ties? And if David was the one who hit record on his VCR on the night of the Super Bowl, that means he would have only had less than 24 hours to move 1,600 miles to Washington State without his car. And why was he wearing military clothing? Was that his clothing? Did he buy it? Did someone make him wear it? Where was his luggage? What was he doing walking down the highway? David's assertions to his wife that his life was in danger, his demeanor as a loving family man, and the nature of his job as an attorney has many people, his family included, believing that he was the victim of foul play. But officially, the police have said David...
Oh yeah, because ma'am, unmute yourself, please. It just crossed my mind, they did say they found his car, so he couldn't have drove that far. How the hell did he get there then? Because someone can double check, but I'm pretty sure it is impossible to walk that far from Amarillo, Texas to Washington State. No way. That's not possible.
David left the house of his own accord, and his death is ruled an accident.
Most likely that's the case. It's just, why? I still believe paranoia got the best of it. I am curious why he had military clothing and all that on, though. That's a curious question.
In 2000, Mary Lou Morris was a 48-year-old loan officer at a Chase Bank in Houston, Texas. On the morning of October 12th, Mary Lou said goodbye to her husband, Jay, and she headed off to work. That afternoon, Jay gave his wife a phone call, but she didn't pick up. He left her a message, and she never got back to him. This was very unlike Mary Lou, and so Jay was a little bit concerned. At 5 p.m., when he still hadn't heard from her, Jay called her back, but again, she didn't pick up. So Jay called Mary Lou's supervisor, who informed Jay that Mary Lou had actually not come to work that day, and they couldn't get in touch with her either. Jay immediately knew something was wrong, and he called the police. The police had not even begun searching for her when a call came into the station from an ATV rider that happened to be on a road about 3 miles away from Mary Lou's house, and he said he spotted a smoldering car, and it looks like there's someone in the driver's seat that's obviously deceased. Earlier that day at about 10 a.m., the fire department had gotten a call about smoke in that area, but they assumed it was a controlled burn, so they didn't investigate. When the police arrived on scene, it was impossible to tell who the person was that was sitting in the driver's seat, but they were able to find a tooth fragment, and they used that to confirm that it was in fact Mary Lou Morris. It was quickly determined that this was most likely a homicide, and her attacker had probably set this up to make it appear like it could have been self-inflicted. Gasoline had been poured all over Mary Lou and all over the vehicle. However, because of how badly damaged the car and she was, they couldn't determine a cause of death, so they weren't sure if she was deceased when she was placed in the car and it was lit on fire, or if she was in the car and the fire was the cause of death.
So my first thought was the husband did it. But since his professional job is the title, I'm gonna assume it means the killing was the professional, so I'm gonna assume it was a hitman. Did the husband hire the hitman? I mean, we're not gonna get the answer because the title's Unsolvable Mysteries. But just, did the husband hire the hitman?
A number of Mary Lou's valuables were still inside of the car, but her wedding ring was not on her finger. Mary Lou's family and the community at large were shocked. They just could not understand why anybody would want to target such a nice person that had no enemies. The day after Mary Lou's death, a local Houston newspaper received an anonymous call from a guy who just said Mary Lou's death was an accident. And the
What do you mean an accident? What do you mean? Did he? How is it? It's like it just hit my brain. Did he get the wrong target? Is that what happened? I'm laughing like that's a good. Did he get the wrong target? Like, was he not supposed to get? Was that not who he was supposed to kill? Was he supposed to get someone else? Was the husband supposed to be the one he got? Was he the one the person shot? Who? How did he end up shooting the wrong person?
newspaper tried to get more information, but the person hung up and they couldn't trace the call. At the same time this drama was unfolding for Mary Lou Morris, another drama was unfolding for another Houston woman with the same name. 39-year-old Mary McGinnis Morris was a successful nurse practitioner.
Never mind. It was the wrong Mary Lou Morris. That wrong person. You're a hitman. This was a hitman job. How does a hitman get the wrong person? You're supposed to know what they look like, aren't they? Did the person not tell you what they look like? Did the person not help you here? What do you mean? How do you get the wrong person? How do you get the wrong person? I'm not even going by, this was back in the day. No. Because you can describe what someone looks like pretty clearly. And these two have a complete age gap of who knows how much. How did this get so wrong? How?
Who by and large got along with all of her coworkers with one exception. A new employee at the clinic, a male nurse named Dwayne Young, was making her feel really uncomfortable. One day when Mary McGinnis got back to her desk, she found all of her pictures of her family had been flipped onto their faces, and in the middle of her desk was a piece of paper that just said death to her. And she knew right away this had to be Dwayne, but she had no way to prove it. And so that night when she went home, she told her husband Mike about this guy Dwayne, and she said, I don't feel safe at work, can you teach me how to shoot a gun? And so he did. He taught her how to shoot a gun, and then he went out and got a pistol, and she tucked it under her driver's seat in her car just in case. On October 16th, so 4 days after Mary Lou Morris was found dead, and 3 days after that anonymous phone call to the newspaper, Mary McGinnis Morris was at a drugstore after work. And as soon as she went inside, she noticed there was this strange man on the other side of the store that was just watching her. She called her best friend Lori to...
Okay, I gotta look. It's not even Mary Lou Morris. It's not both of them have the same middle name. It's just Mary Morris. This hitman this professional did not get much information clearly.
To tell her that there was this strange guy and wanted to know what to do, and Lori said, wait for him to leave. But the guy didn't leave. He just stayed in the store and stared at Mary. And so eventually Mary said, you know what, I'm just going to pay for my stuff and get out of here. I got to stop by the office, but I'll be home in just a few minutes. I'll be totally fine. And so Mary hangs up, she buys what she needs, she leaves the store, and then 12 minutes later, she places a frantic 911 call saying someone's trying to kill her. And this 911 call was not made public because apparently on the tape, you can actually hear her being attacked. Mary McGinnis was found later that night in her car, she was deceased. She had a single gunshot wound to the head. It was clear from her 911 call that she had been attacked, and so this was almost certainly a homicide. However, her attacker tried to stage it so it looked like it was self-inflicted. The murder weapon, which was actually her pistol that was tucked underneath her seat, had been placed next to her hand on the seat next to her. None of Mary McGinnis's valuables were stolen. However, her wedding ring was missing from her finger. After Mary...
Okay, it was her husband. It had to have been her husband. Okay, he taught her how to use a gun. He bought her a pistol. And he gave it to the dude. He gave it to the professional. He gave it to her. And probably he probably suggested, hey, put it under your seat. Put it on your driver's seat, just in case. Told the professional. Because what happened probably was his wife came back that day. The professional said, hey, I did the job. Here's the weapon. He goes, no, she didn't because she came back home. But that's not the right person. So he was like, well, shit, now I got to place a call saying it was anonymous. Anonymously saying it was an accident. Because as much as I believe it's that weird dude, the way this guy's presenting himself was not seem like someone he'd present as a hit, like he would hire a hitman. It seemed like something he'd do if he just wanted to do it himself. In this case, if the husband did, the husband would get more things because there's a creepy guy checking at a place of work, so he would be made to look way more innocent. Should have checked to see if he had a wedding ring.
Mary McGinnis Morris's death, people began to speculate that her death and Mary Lou Morris's death were connected. Specifically, this was a professional hit gone wrong. The reasoning for this theory is there was just too many coincidences. They shared the
Oh no, that's definitely the case. There's no doubt.
Same name, they lived in the same city, they were killed within days of each other, and both of their deaths were staged to look like they were self-inflicted. And each woman was missing their wedding ring, which apparently is a common way for professional hitmen to let their clients know that the job was done. The people that subscribe to this theory believe Mary McGinnis Morris was the intended target, and Mary Lou Morris was just an accident. And in fact, after killing Mary Lou Morris, the hitman must have realized, whoops, I made a mistake, and they called the newspaper to say, literally, that was a mistake. And then a couple of days later, the hit was successfully carried out on Mary McGinnis Morris. The police looked into this theory and they discovered that Mary McGinnis's husband, Mike, had recently accused her of cheating on him, and he was really, really upset about it. He also refused to take a polygraph test and would not allow...
Do I know or do I know? Do I know or do I know? I said it, listen, Mr. Ball and Mr. presented this creepy guy thinking everyone thinks it's him. No, because someone who's this obvious would not then hire a hitman to do a job. Someone this stupid and this psychotic as this fucking Dwayne dude would probably just done it himself if he wanted to kill her. This is a husband thing. And he used that guy. That guy is what he thought, again, that guy being there, getting a hitman to take her out, that guy would look more guilty than he did. That's what he did. And the wedding ring, because he knows what he bought as a wedding ring. He knows what he got her. So that wedding ring he would be able to identify. And that's why he did it. Smart brains up in here. Smart boys. Smart people.
His daughter to talk to the police, and Mary McGinnis had a $700,000 life insurance policy that Mike was in line to receive. And so immediately everybody's like, okay, obviously Mike put a hit out on his wife, and that's what started this whole thing. But when they dug into it, they realized that no matter how upset Mike was, there wasn't any evidence that tied him to the killing of his wife or to Mary Lou Morris, and so he was ruled out as a suspect.
Just because there's no evidence you can find doesn't mean it does exist. I still believe it's him.
Mary McGinnis's co-worker, Dwayne Young, who wrote Death to Her on her desk, it was clear that he did not like Mary, but he was ruled out as a suspect as well. And unfortunately, that's where both of these cases go cold. To date, no one's ever been charged in either murder. In 1996, Blair Adams was 31 years old and living in Surrey, British Columbia. Although in the past he had struggled with substance abuse and alcoholism, over the previous 2 years he had really gotten his act together and got a great job as a foreman at a local construction company. He was known to be a cheerful and friendly guy that did not have any known enemies. But that summer, Blair started exhibiting uncharacteristic mood swings that his mother would describe as being frequent and wild. In a matter of weeks, Blair transformed from being very calm and relaxed and friendly to being totally panicked all the time and always looking over his shoulder, and he was so stressed out he couldn't sleep at night. And he began telling his coworkers that he was fairly certain someone was trying to kill him. And they would say to him, "Blair, I don't think you're okay. You really need to see a doctor." When his mother confronted him about his erratic, paranoid behavior, he told her, "Mom, I really shouldn't tell you about it." And she said, "What's it?" And he said, "Mom, I can't say anything else." And that was it. She could never get any more information out of her son.
What did this boy get himself into? Did his past when he had substance issues come back to haunt him? Did he owe someone or something money and that's what's coming back to haunt him? It's possible. It's possible something came back to haunt this boy, and right now it's catching up and he's getting paranoid about it. Or he just believes it's coming up and he believes there's someone after get him from the past, and that's what's causing. He doesn't want to know what it is because that he doesn't want to tell anyone what it is, because that would imply he would have to tell them what he did in his past that he probably doesn't want. He wants kept shut. Doesn't want people to know about. That's what I bet's going on.
Blair's strange behavior came to a head on Friday, July 5th, when he went to his bank and withdrew all of the cash out of his account, totaling $6,000, and he also emptied his safety deposit box, which contained thousands of dollars worth of jewelry and gold. 2 days later, on Sunday, he left his house and drove 30 minutes to the Canada-USA border, and he attempted to enter the United States. But being a single guy carrying a bunch of cash and jewelry and acting really nervous, he fit the profile of a drug trafficker. And
yes, he fucking does. Holy crap, that made to the dang of drug traffickers so much.
So he was denied entry. Frustrated, Blair left and went back to his house, and the next day, which was Monday, he went to his construction site and he abruptly told his boss that he was quitting. And he didn't even pick up his final paycheck, he just left. After leaving the construction site, he went straight to the airport where he promptly purchased a $1,600 round trip to Frankfurt, Germany. Although we don't know why he wanted to go to Frankfurt, Germany, he did work there briefly the year before. His flight was supposed to leave the following day, which was Tuesday, but immediately after purchasing this plane ticket, Blair suddenly decided that he needed to try again to cross into the USA. So he rushed to a friend's house, he knocked on her door, she opens it up, and he looks totally disheveled, and he's telling her that someone's trying to kill me, I need your help getting across the border, I just got rejected a couple of days ago, can you please drive me across, you got kids, it'll look much more convincing, can you do that for me? And she was really spooked by his behavior and felt like this is not something I want to get involved with, and so she said, sorry, I can't help you. So Blair...
Of course you can, you can't tell someone, hey, someone's out to kill me, someone's trying to kill me. Can you and your kids get in the car and drive me to try to escape? No freaking way someone's going to get involved with that. Because they're at risk and their kids are at risk. So of course they're going to tell you no. You seem like a maniac. You're weird. No. This is ridiculous.
Blair headed home where he hid out for the day, and then the next day, Tuesday, he went to the airport, but instead of getting on his flight to Frankfurt, Germany, he went to the front desk and requested a refund, and it was granted. He told them that the person he was going to meet in Germany had gotten sick, and so now he couldn't go. And so the only person he could have been talking about was the girl he had briefly had a fling with when he was there for work the year earlier. But later on, investigators would talk to that German girl, and she would say she was not in touch with Blair, and she definitely was not expecting him. Blair left the airport and rented a car, which was a Nissan Altima, and he immediately went to the U.S.-Canada border, except this time he was able to get across. He made his way to Seattle, Washington, where he went over to their airport, and then abandoned his Nissan in the middle of a parking lot, and then went down and bought a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C. Now, he paid $770 for this one-way ticket, but he could have just purchased a round trip for half the price. But either way, he boarded the plane that night, and by Wednesday morning, he was in Washington, D.C. He got off the plane and rented another car, which was was a Toyota Camry and then drove 500 miles southwest to Knoxville, Tennessee. Blair was not seen in Knoxville until about 5:30 p.m. that evening when he showed up at a gas station complaining of car troubles. And so the gas station attendant came out to try to help Blair, and he immediately diagnosed what the problem was. Blair was trying to start his Toyota Camry with the key to his Nissan Altima that he had abandoned in Seattle, Washington. And so the attendant pointed out that it was the wrong key, and Blair held it up and said, "No, this is the one I was using." And the guy's like, "No, it clearly says Nissan on it." And so Blair and this gas station attendant look around the car inside and out for this missing Toyota key. Blair's reaching in his pockets, he can't find it. Blair ends up calling the rental company, but they wind up being closed. And so the gas station attendant says, "Unfortunately, we're going to have to tow your car, but I'll give you a ride to a nearby hotel." And so Blair accepted the...
Okay, so I have a couple questions. Number one, let's say, this is obviously true. There's no reason to lie about this part. How did he get to this part? How did he get to this gas station? Because he's using the car. He's using a Nissan key. How did he get to this gas station? How did he get? Did the key work originally? Did the Nissan key work and he got to the gas? How did he get to this gas station if he didn't have the key? That's what I'm trying to figure. I want to know. Because that's weird. I didn't know how he did that.
The ride, and just after 6 p.m. that night, Blair walked through the front door of the Fairfield Inn and then promptly turned around and walked out, and then walked in, and then walked out, over and over again 5 separate times over the course of an hour before he finally walked up to the front desk and asked for a room. The front desk attendant at the hotel said Blair was totally paranoid, constantly looking over his shoulder, and just totally on edge the entire time, and then after she gave him his room and he paid for it, he took the key, and instead of going up to his room, he just walked out again and then never came back. The following morning, 2 workers arrived at their construction site right across the street from the Fairfield Inn, and they discovered a body, and it would turn out to be Blair's. He was missing his socks, shoes.
What did this guy do? I have never seen a form of paranoia like this. I mean, we had the story of those 2 people who thought they were being hunted by the mafia, but even then they would have this bit of calmness before they would get paranoid again because they think something happened. Here, these people, this guy is just consistently 24/7, 365 paranoid that someone's after him. It's insane.
And pants, and he had scratches on his hands as well as on his face, but none of the abrasions were that significant. There was $4,000 in German, US, and Canadian currencies lying on the ground around him. Also spread out around Blair was his fanny pack full of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry and gold, a black duffel bag that contained maps and receipts, and then also that missing Toyota car key that they could not find the night before. That was lying on the ground as well. Blair's autopsy showed that he had died from a single violent blow to his stomach, but they had no idea what actually struck his stomach. Toxicology reports showed that Blair had no drugs or alcohol in his system. The only DNA evidence that was found at the crime scene was a single long strand of hair that Blair was clutching in his fist. But there's no more information about this hair online. There were no witnesses, but there was a security guard who claimed to have heard screaming, a woman's scream, coming from the area where Blair was discovered at about 3:30 in the morning. The only lead police had was the sketch of this guy that apparently people had seen Blair talking to outside of a Cracker Barrel restaurant right after Blair had left the hotel. But police were never able to identify this man. Investigators were baffled. Was Blair telling the truth that someone had been trying to kill him for weeks leading up to his death and they finally caught up to him? And if so, why didn't he tell authorities? Or was Blair delusional and he just happened to run into another killer when he was in Tennessee? Unfortunately, we still have absolutely no idea. So that's going to do it, guys.
Or did he just happen to cross paths with the wrong person? I don't mean a killer. What if this scenario happened? There was someone in this construction site just sitting there. Just happens to mind their own business. Maybe a guy and a chick. Maybe. The dude, who's paranoid as hell, who thinks someone's after him, sees these 2 and just convinces himself in his mind these are the two that are trying to kill him. He's going to try to be his own hero. He's going to come confront them. And he walks over to them. And he tries to yell at them, maybe get angry at them, maybe start complaining at them about the fact that they're trying to kill him. And obviously they're confused because they don't know what the heck he's talking about because they have nothing to do with this, so they have no idea what's going on. So then he attacks them. He attacks the girl. That's why the girl is screaming. Pulls maybe some of her hair out. The guy, who probably has to be ding, just delivers maybe that final blow or hits him with something. That is that major blow to the stomach. And the dude just collapses. And maybe the key part I can't explain. But knowing this guy is so delusional, he probably had the key and didn't even realize it. That's another theory I have for this last story. But they will all remain unsolved. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Comment what you thought of these stories down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.